right, day 2, VMware Explore Barcelona, and man, the announcements were, there were a lot of announcements yesterday, John.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I'm like, it's the back half of the year. I've clearly had too many tapas. I'm looking just for an easy ride, but they're turning up the volume. They're keeping it going.
Yeah, lots of announcements. Certainly a lot of announcements around storage. Heck, the one that we're going to talk about now was around data protection, and it was actually tech previewed in Las Vegas. And so who better to talk about vSAN than the guys that are actually designing it, the product managers themselves, the senior guys. We've got Vijay with us and Rakesh. Rakesh and Vijay, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Folks, my first time in virtually speaking podcast, so yeah, thank you.
First time caller, long time listener?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Vijay, welcome, man. We've been talking offline for a long time. I'm glad we finally got you on.
Thank you.
And I know you guys have been in the vSAN sphere for so long. There's so many things going on, but let's just start from the tech preview that happened in Vegas and see what's been updated around data protection.
Okay, so look, let me just maybe start off by saying that VMware has been in the storage business for a very, very long time, right? With VMFS and then vSAN. But there was one missing ingredient in all our storage solutions for the longest time, and that's called snapshots. Right? We had snapshots,
right?
But it wasn't the best.
No, and I don't know if you know this, but John and I actually had a session many years ago called Snapshots Suck.
Exactly.
At VMworld, because everyone defines snapshots differently, and I will say that the VMware snapshots of early days were not exactly as proficient as some of the other storage vendors.
Exactly, and look, we had some very smart people building file systems, but so it's not because we don't know what to do, but it takes a while to build the right snapshots, and you need to have the right file system as well. And so, with vSAN ESA, which got released last year, for the first time in VMware history, we got like enterprise-grade snapshots, right? And that was a beginning of all our data protection solutions. And so at this Explore, in fact, starting with Explore Las Vegas and then in Barcelona, we are announcing, now that we have the snapshot as a primitive in ESA, we added capabilities to manage those snapshots. And that's what we're calling as a snapshot manager in vSAN, which allows you to schedule snapshots, recover from snapshots if there are VMs that are corrupted, or if someone accidentally deleted a VMDK. And so an entire snapshot management set of capabilities for vSAN.
Yeah, that makes sense. So obviously snapshots are great for operational, administrators use snapshots all the time, but they can also be used in ransomware recovery.
Absolutely. So in fact, everyone's top of mind when I talk about, when I talk to customers, the first thing, that they ask about when it comes to storage is, hey, what's your data security solution, ransomware recovery? A lot of customers, every customer that I talk to is thinking about it, and and even within our customer base, it's a group effort. It's not just about network security. It's not just about storage security. It's a group effort, right? It's across the board. And so when it comes to storage, where we play a part is in if a customer gets hit by a ransomware attack, how do we provide the capabilities to quickly recover from that? Yeah. And so snapshot, again, as a primitive, is a critical element. And we have a unique solution in VMware called VCDR, VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery, which is way far ahead of the industry standard on what we can do with respect to ransomware or protection against ransomware attacks. So we've integrated our snapshots with VCDR, so a customer who's deploying vSAN can protect the data against ransomware attacks and can recover quickly from ransomware attacks. Yeah.
Well, it's great to have snapshots, but have them be operationally useful and be able to manage them and pull that data out and make that workflow work. Requires a lot of extra stenciling and direction there. Have there been any other improvements within this offering recently?
In terms of workflows or?
Well, just I guess in terms of what we can do to help identify the problem of ransomware.
I mean, this is in fact one of the the key IPs that we have with VCDR, right? Because look, it's easy to protect your data. There are lots of backup solutions in the market.
Take a snap, throw it somewhere.
Throw it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But what's hard is identifying the snap that is, that's infected, And with this new wave of ransomware attacks, it's no longer a file system problem. It's the malware can be in memory, it can be in registries, etc., etc. And so you need to actually be able to have simple workflows to identify the right snapshot that's infected or that's clean, and to leverage next generation antivirus solutions to even clean those snapshots, and then recover the data from that snapshot back on-prem. And so this whole workflow is a very complex process, and what we have done with VCDR is to simplify the whole process.
Well, it's interesting here because historically security, I feel like often was, well, that's the security team's problem. It's you run some agents inside the guest OS. The infrastructure doesn't care about security. And we're now seeing infrastructure have to be hardened for security, operate for security, and the nature of a ransomware attack, it's fundamentally a crime scene that you have that's thrust upon you. And it's very easy to say, well, yeah, somebody shot Pete. This is a crime scene. It's another thing to bring in forensics, identify that, okay, yes, Rakesh was the one, responsible, and then we got to clean this place up and, serve lunch here.
Exactly it.
So there's all these other steps that this process seems to work either.
And ransomware has, it's been the disaster of the decade, right? And it's really evolved from small-time, scattered, small-time hackers to sophisticated, targeted campaigns now, right? Some of them even sponsored by state-sponsored groups. So, and one thing to keep in mind is that the modus operandi of these attackers has changed significantly. They target your critical infrastructure, and then they encrypt your backups. Yeah. Right? And there's a ransomware attack happening every 11 seconds a day. So it's pretty sophisticated. And to Vijay's point, the recovery process is pretty sophisticated as well.
It's not easy.
Yeah, so I'm curious, and I know that the big announcement on day one was certainly around vCDR and ransomware recovery capabilities, which are also using the Express Storage architecture, but how does that look in contrast to, say, traditional storage?
So the key difference is, I'll tell you, traditional storage, the approach has always been LUN or volume-centric snapshots, right? And with VMware, our DNA has always been, we do everything that is VM-centric or app-centric, right? And with the traditional approach, the problem is like, a number of problems, right? How do I find my VM? Like, where's my app? How do I connect it to the right LUN or the right snapshot?
Well, Excel is the correct answer. Excel is how I mapped my zoning and my LUNs and my apps.
Exactly. Cloning or recovering a VM is not a multi-step, cumbersome process, right? And so now add to top of that everything Vijay said, when you have a cyber attack, imagine how complex it is to recover a VM or an app from that cyber attack, right? So the difference is VMware follows an app-centric approach. Everything is VM-centric, it's app-centric. We allow, dynamic grouping of apps or VMs into protection groups. You can pick any VM or an app, and with a single click, you can clone it or restore it. And even if you have a deleted VM, if you fat finger a VM, no problem, right? You can recover it from an immutable snapshot. And then on top of that, we provide federated protection insights across all your snapshots and your entire environment, across all your vCenters. So these are some of the unique differentiating capabilities of the VMware solution for operational recovery.
Yeah, I guess Snap Restore has always felt kind of easy, but when you start talking massive environments and huge quantities, the orchestration at scale, it's a completely different animal.
One VM is easy. 1,000 VMs is not easy. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, even if you can restore that on traditional storage, just the amount of steps that it takes.
Yes.
In a time when you don't have time,
right,
can be very laborious.
The other advantage is, as Vijay pointed out, we have a tight integration between vSAN ESA and the vCDR product. So we maintain local snapshots, and we have snapshots in the cloud. So when you have a ransomware attack and you do the cleansing, then you only have to send the difference in the data between the snapshots that are local and the snapshots that are remote, and that saves you a lot of egress charges, right?
Yeah, exporting 1.5 petabytes out of some clouds does cost a couple.
Just costs a couple of dollars.
I mean, to that point, I was with a customer this morning who had the exact same problem. He said, "Look, I can." I do replicate my data to the cloud because I want to have a clean room in the cloud. Right. But then my problem is when I bring back the data, it's going to take me days or months even, right? Because there's a bunch of data. And so we've taken care of the problem.
You got to ask the question of yourself, is my DR strategy an actual DR strategy that has a failback, or is it just a migration tool in disguise?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that. What about what can we expect in the future though? Like I see that this is a solution for cybersecure storage, if you want to call it, or just in general. Like what can we expect next?
So one of the key areas we are looking at now is that we've talked to a number of customers who have sovereign clouds and want to keep their data on-prem, right? Some of them have concerns about sending data to the cloud. So we are investigating options of how to provide ransomware recovery where, as much as possible, you keep the data on premises and don't have to send anything to the cloud. So that is a key area that we are looking at, and look for some exciting announcements in that area next year.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, it seems like most of the solutions at VMware, we offer this cloud solution, but that doesn't fit everybody, right? So there's going to be some data sovereignty, there's going to be some privacy concerns, and so offering that solution, I feel like we're following the recipe of a good, successful VMware product. So
exactly.
Also, as a logical next step, we do need to figure out how do we make it easy to move snapshots or replicate snapshots from one vSAN cluster to another. And so that's another one that we are...
Data mobility.
Data mobility.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it's been a great week so far. The announcements have been so many, and I'm just thankful that you took time to talk to us today on Virtually Speaking, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
It's a
you, folks.
pleasure. Thank you, Pete.
And
Thank
we're
you,
out.
John.
All right.